Friends, these job numbers are just astonishing. I'm looking at it here, 130,000 jobs in January, blowing away Wall Street consensus. I think the Dow Jones estimates were at 55,000 plus 55,000, so it's more than double what was expected. This is absolutely astonishing. All right, Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. As a reminder, starting next week, if you're here in Las Vegas, the program is moving to 6 p.m. And yes, it'll only be an hour. So just letting you know, 6 p.m., 1 hour, but you can get the podcast right at the beginning of the day. You can get it before it airs. I will prepare it in the morning, and it will deploy in the morning. And what this means is you can listen to the show anytime you want. Just find What's Right Show wherever you get your podcasts. It's free. It's yours. It's on demand. That's the update. Okay, Sam at what'srightshow.com. If you have any problems with that, email me, and I will put you in touch with producer Robbie to sort all of that out. Now, let me tell you this. One thing about the economy. Every single economic expert that foretold doom that the Trump tariffs were going to put us into a recession was either wrong or was lying. There's no other way around it. These people are just, they were off base. And everything you see happening right now is counterindicative of any kind of doom forecast, right? And I'll set aside, right, my big caveat to anything that's happening, everything good that is happening here is AI, and I'll get to that here hopefully a little bit later in the program. But I just, this is phenomenal. And it's working because trillions of overseas dollars are being invested in the U.S., and Trump has been traveling since the very first hours of his presidency around the world courting investment. Instead of us as a country constantly giving away money via USAID, 10 million here, 100 million there, billion over there, we are going around now collecting investment dollars from foreign countries. And Trump has wielded the tariff stick in order to make it happen. And what are these investments? These investments are in new factories, new businesses that require human beings. There's a huge amount of construction jobs that have kicked off. Why? Is it because interest rates are low and people are building? No. It's because of this foreign investment that has come into the country, where factories are being built, where you have new office buildings going up. Development is occurring. And it's happening because there was an election in November of 2024 where a builder was elected president. And this is what it's all about. So this is astonishing. By the way, CNBC today, this morning, just ran this report. And I mean, you take it for what it is. I mean, this just is, they're almost left speechless.
Non-farm payrolls for January coming in twice expectations at 130,000. 130K, that would be the juiciest going back to April of last year when it was 158. Now, if we look at a couple of months worth of revision, they came in at minus 17,000. Now,
I want to pause it right there, because what you're going to hear from a lot of people is, well, these numbers get revised down. They get revised down. Okay, so revise it down 17,000. Revise it down 20,000. Revise it down 40,000. It still far and away exceeds what smart, I would presume, economically competent people on Wall Street were predicting at a mere 55,000 plus jobs, which in and of itself would have been a strong number. This is why, by the way, the Dow Jones Industrial Average today, the key Wall Street indicator, among others, is soaring, right? Stocks are going up.
Now let's look for average hourly earnings month over month, up 0.4. That's 1/10 higher than both looking back and looking forward. 0.4 would equal October last year. You are all the way back to the summer of 24 to find a higher month-over-month earnings number. Let's go year over year. 3.7 exactly as expected. 1/10 light to 3.8 in the rearview mirror. So how does that stack up? 3.7 would be the lightest since it was actually 3.6 Thanksgiving of last year.
Notice the exuberance. He is ecstatic over these numbers. Rick Santelli, of course, there at CNBC. And every indicator is up. Now, you go to the labor secretary, Lori Chavez. Now, she's talking to a reporter today. Jobs numbers, she says, should not surprise anyone. And actually, they don't surprise me. I've been touting this economy from the beginning. This is what the labor secretary said about why these numbers are as good as they are.
People say their expectations, well, we were surprised, but really, when I think about it, we've added construction jobs are up, manufacturing jobs are up, and that's been a testament to the investments of $18 trillion that the president has negotiated and brought back to the American people and the American economy. I've mentioned I have been on the road. I'm going to visit my 48th state tomorrow. Out of the 50-state tour, we're seeing the application of what the workforce is being offered by their employees. They're investing in hiring. We are reskilling. We're upskilling. We've been focused on the apprenticeship program. Over 330,000 new apprentices have been registered with the Department of Labor since Trump's Labor Department took office.
And this is enormous. Now, I also want to point out that when we look at the economy, the unemployment rate is lower. It's slightly dipped to 4.3%, which is this is below the forecast to stay at 4.4%, unchanged. But the other thing is that federal jobs. You're not going to hear this from CNN as a positive figure, because for the left this is something to grieve, but federal jobs continue to shrink. And there is a total reduction of approximately 40,000 federal jobs month over month. And if you look at it year over year, so as of January 2026, we are down 2.1 million workers from 2.3 million at the end of Biden administration. So this is significant, right? These are levels not seen since 2014. We are literally scaling this back to a level not seen for 12 years. And we're still rolling. This is fantastic. And this is actually due to the shrinking of the government, right? Departments of Education, Agriculture, Housing and Urban Development lost over 25% of their staff. Enormous amount of savings. Somewhere between, I think the estimates are up to $7 billion is the number. I mean, this is exactly what we voted for. And on top of it, you have deregulation that still is in process, still is waiting for the effects of it to be felt as investment flows into the economy. And I think Trump is on the cusp now of gutting our climate change policy, everything, all the environmental guidelines. I saw Lee Zeldin talking about that infernal start-stop button that every car, most cars that you have to press a little, anytime you come to a light, you start to idle, the engine turns off, you got to press the button to turn it back on. All this mandated by the green freaks out there. It's gone. And that is all of this great news. So, well, I'll tell you that the flip side of this, of course, is the writing on the wall with AI. And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. I'm a positive person, but I can't lie to you folks. So I have to tell you that everything that I have been saying about AI is going to happen, and maybe then some. So just hang tight. I'll explain what I mean, and I'll also tell you. I'll tell you where I think the future is, right, and how to best protect yourself from becoming AI redundant in your career. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. This program, obviously, as always, brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam and Ash, 800-304-2000, 1-800-304-2000, because you deserve what's right.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
I tell you, I am rarely wrong, always right. And I mean that. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. A quick word here about what to do if you or a loved one is hurt, gets hurt in any way, right? And you start to think about it. Is there an insurance claim? Am I going to talk to the insurance company, handle it on my own? And most competent people think, but of course, I'm going to do this. I'm going to handle it. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to go to the insurance company, palms up, whether it's a car accident or a premises, liability case, some kind of injury occurs, and you think, I'm going to solve this. I'm going to go to them. I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to get treated decently in return. That, unfortunately, doesn't happen. You'll do the right thing, but they won't. Don't let that happen to you, and don't waste your time, your precious time. You've got work, you've got family, you've got obligations. Don't spend days, weeks, and months dealing with these idiots only to end up losing and be out of pocket thousands of dollars. Sam and Ash Injury Law. This is my firm. This is what I do. It's my day job. When I'm not here on this program, I'm out there fighting for people like you. And I do a really good job of it. I've got a tremendous team here. And we've helped many, many listeners of the What's Right show get the justice they deserve. 800-304-2000. 800-304-2000. No recovery, no fee, no money up front. Doesn't cost you anything out of your pocket. Just give us a call, get started on your case, get the help that you need. It's so important. 800-304-2000, 800-304-2000. That's the number. I keep repeating it, but it's important to have it. Offices in Nevada and California, samandashlaw.com, because you deserve what's right. Now, just a quick word about, folks, these unemployment numbers. I love that the Trump administration, on one hand, is working hard to employ workers in the country, and on the other hand, is fighting to fire the bloated people from the bloated federal bureaucracy. This is a good thing. Efficiency matters. Also, every productive person that is in the workforce helps drive GDP. The people that are in government, that are employed in government, Biden, when the economy was tanking, was doing everything to at least boost the job numbers by hiring people. So the government essentially was subsidizing work that didn't exist. Now, this is not going to be a rosy forecast. So I'm hedging this by telling you that I hope I'm wrong. I don't think I will be, but I hope I am, because I think there's a tremendous amount of change and upheaval that is headed our way. And I mentioned a couple weeks ago that we're about 2 years out from things being radically different. And I saw a tweet. I saw a tweet today. I think it was it Matt Walsh? It was Matt Walsh. And he tweeted basically out and said, with AI coming, everything that we today consider a problem, we will not be considering a problem. And I think he said the 2-year part out as well. Maybe he said 1.5 years. But regardless, there's a guy named Matt Schumer, and he's the CEO of Hyperwrite AI, Other Side AI. He's an investor in a bunch of AI tech companies, and he wrote a long tweet, a long article that's making the rounds. And some of this is, I think, is ringing true. And I want to take you through what he's talking about. The posit of the tweet is that AI is rapidly, and I mean rapidly, accelerating in the capacity, in the work that it can do. And I'll set aside the technical aspects of this because that's for another conversation. What this means is that about 50% of entry-level jobs, office jobs, go away. And the way that Schumer puts this, and it's a good take. If you sit in front of a screen and you make decisions about things that are on your screen, or you write something into a computer, input information into a computer, your job in 2 years won't exist. And that's really sobering. Now, I'll add another layer just from my personal observation experience. I think that a lot of phone work and communicating with customers, clients, et cetera, is also going to go away to AI agents. And you know how it is when you call somewhere and you're talking to a computer, and you're talking to a computer. It doesn't feel that natural. Some of the programs are getting so good that you don't know it. Some of the programs out there are getting so good you don't even realize you're talking to a computer. And the acceleration of improvement here is going to be exponential. One thing that this guy wrote is that AI is already helping to build and improve the next generation of itself. So the latest GPT code actually assisted in its own creation. I told you this was happening. The code will self-refine. And this means that progress will compound exponentially, right? Again, before, when AI was nascent and was being coded, it was being coded by people. People have sick days. People don't code 24 hours a day. People code at a certain rate that is slower, obviously, than a machine. People, have holidays and take time off, right? So all of this stuff, something that previously would have taken hundreds, maybe thousands of programmers and would have taken years, can now happen in a week. The task completion rate, which is something that if you're in tech matters, right? How quickly something gets done, a certain improvement, a certain update or whatever. They're actually, the rate at which they're done are doubling. So the speed is improving by 2x every 4 to 7 months. And so you're heading toward having stuff, big things being done in weeks, and small apps being written. I work with tech developers on the tech side of what I do, and I'll tell you, what used to take us years to do, now you set up these AI chatbots, and they handle the task basically overnight. You tell it in plain language what you want to do, it gets to work, and you show up in the morning and you go, oh, I've got an app. I've got a program that loosely does, and then you tell it, okay, I don't like this, fix this, fix that. And it goes another few hours and it fixes it. And then it does its own troubleshooting. And for busy executives, I'm going to tell you some stuff here. You go to Claude and programs that Claude is the leading, that's Anthropic, and they've got the leading chatbot, and you can give it directions and to go through your email and book flights for you or find the best rate on hotels, and it works in the background and it will make those bookings for you. It will literally act as an assistant, but do it quicker. And for, I think the most premium version is $200 a month. The sort of the higher end version is $100. And so for $100, you have somebody, you have a computer that replaces an $80,000 a year person. So I'm not trying to scare anybody here. I'm telling you, this is in the next 2 years, there will be a jobs bloodletting that happens. And I'll tell you what the government response will be to it when we come back. It's interesting. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Did you see the lawyer it's representing a squatter? Did you see this video? This is my favorite thing on the internet right now. And so I have to share. Sam Mirejovsky here, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the program. Sam at whatsrightshow.com. Sam at whatsrightshow.com. Good to be here with you. Now, but this has something to do with AI, so just bear with me here. Because I know people out there think, okay, what kind of jobs are going to get taken out by AI? I mentioned sort of the first wave of jobs being people who are in front of a screen. And then people say, will AI replace lawyers, right? Will AI actually replace lawyers? And the short answer is it will replace some attorneys. It will certainly more efficiently than a lawyer go through a contract. So lawyers that practice in mergers and acquisitions, we call that M&A. Two companies looking to, one company looking to acquire another company or looking to merge. What's going to happen is all the documentation, all the work that used to feed, maybe on a big project, 50 lawyers, associates working late night hours in front of their computers and typing things out and revising and reading and analyzing and going over it again and again. You're going to have one or two partners, really sharp lawyers who are good negotiators that are working the deal, and all the back end work is being done by the AI. Now, then there are the kind of lawyers that are so atrocious that we can't wait for AI to replace them. So the guy like this, for example, I cannot believe this. Here's the backstory before I play the clip. The backstory is there's a woman who goes in and squats on an expensive piece of property. And her name is Tamika Good. The house is, I think, was a $2 million or so in Maryland. And there's a TV reporter that reaches out to Tamika Good's lawyer. Now, the attorney, his name is Alex J. Webster III. Now, I wish I could have reached out to Alex before he did this interview, because I always like to tell lawyers that just because the media wants to talk to you about your case doesn't mean you should talk to the media about the case, number one. And number two, just because you got into law school and passed the bar exam doesn't mean that you're qualified to represent people, no matter how criminal pieces of garbage they may be. And I submit to you Alex J. Webster III as an example. Now, this is painful to listen to. Just bear with it here, because it's absolute comedic gold.
How would your client, Ms. Tamika Good, get inside a $2.3 million property?
Cut. I don't know if I can answer that. Allegedly. Can I cut?
We're
rolling.
We're rolling, my friend. Yeah.
He can't answer. He's just looking.
All right, can you re-ask the question?
Sure, absolutely. So the number one question on everybody's mind is how your client, Ms. Tamika Good, got into a $2.3 million property.
Well, Ms. Good did her research. She found out that a certain property was under the control of a certain group, and that there was a title issue. Due to the title issue, she was able to assume the property under squatters' rights.
So in Maryland, there isn't a particular squatter right. Am I missing something?
Well, it's not a particular squatter's right.
He doesn't even know the law. This guy is completely unqualified to do the work that he's doing. So this is where, by the way, so again, this is where AI is going to, arguably, for a lady like Tamika Good, is going to do a better job at helping her out than this dumb schmuck, right? But I'll tell you where AI is like, for example, people say, well, what kind of lawyers? Well, you can know the law, and you can know, people, and by the way, they do this. I found this out. This is actually great. People will call my firm, and they are far more knowledgeable today about the law in their particular case when they talk to me. And I actually like that. I like an informed client. I think it's a good thing. And they'll say, well, if you agree with me and this is the law, then I'll just handle it on my own. And I'll say, okay, you can do that. But what happens when you tell the insurance company, because in my business, you're almost always dealing with an insurance company or a big corporation on the other side. What happens when your case, your injury, you go and you tell them the law and you're absolutely correct about the law? What happens then if they tell you, okay, we agree with you, but we're not paying? What are you going to do? Are you capable of going to court? Are you going to be able to send ChatGPT into the courthouse and be your lawyer? Because the answer to that is no. And the only reason that I get a great settlement, even a quick settlement sometimes for a client of mine, is because the other side fears what I possibly could do to them if they don't pay and we have to go to court. It's the fear of losing to me and potentially losing to me in a really big way that prompts them to be fair, offer a fair amount of money, and get a quick resolution for my client. So there are jobs that aren't going to be quickly replaced by AI because you're not going to have humanoid robots going in and arguing cases in court. Okay. And that's something that is still something that you're not going to be able to outsource. I mean, I'm just telling you. Now, what happens, and here's something that actually has been on my mind quite a bit. And I at first, I thought this was wrong. But the more I think about it, and it's, we're getting into some political consequences here of what AI, because imagine 50% of white collar jobs go away in a year and a half. That's a lot of unemployed people. What does that do to our political scene? And folks, I don't want to get negative, and I don't want to get pessimistic. My concern is that an environment where you have a sudden uptick in huge mass unemployment, that's an environment where people like Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic Socialists of America, actual honest to goodness communists stand a chance. Communism isn't a great sell when most of the country's doing well. If AI were not in the equation, if it didn't exist right now, I would tell you the Trump economy in and of itself by 2028 is going to convince every, 8 out of 10 Americans that capitalism is the way forward. But if suddenly the capitalist enterprise renders, millions of people, half of the or more of even white collar workers, office workers, everybody obsolete, then all of a sudden people will feel they need to be taken care of, and the people that will step up to the plate is going to be the political left. The right, in other words, the right wing of this country, if we're going to survive as an institution, as a country, we have to have an answer to this. And today, as I sit here, and I'll admit to you when I don't know an answer, and so today's one of those days. I don't know what the answer is. I could argue that one answer actually will be some form of because there's economy is roaring, right? And there and the robots are doing the work. You're going to have to pay some kind of universal basic income. This is one of the solutions that's been offered up, and actually, Elon Musk has made arguments along those lines. But you're not putting this genie back in the bottle. That's for sure. Like the train has left the station. There's no going back. And I worry that it will have a dramatic political implications that favor leftists. And it worries me that at the same exact time that you have these circumstances occurring, you've got radical leftists gaining political ground in the United States of America. And when I tell you that last year was the beginning of the American Communist Revolution, a lot of you ignored what I said and glossed over it. And as I sit here today, I worry that these are words that are prophetic, and I'm just smart enough to see it happening and see the possibility of what will happen or potentially could happen, maybe even likely to occur, and it terrifies me. And I don't, and I'll admit freely, I don't know what the solution is. So how's that for a Thursday program? Okay, Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Hang tight. Be right back. As always, producer Robbie keeping me on track here during the break, reminding me where I was headed, and telling me something that was already in my head. And so, Robbie, thank you. Great minds think alike. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the program. By the way, I got a bunch of emails after my rant about Southwest yesterday asking me why I don't fly private. Sam, where's your private jet? Good question. You know, I used to have a plane, so I know a lot about aviation because I obviously via my chief pilot operated an airplane, and owning an airplane is a lot of work. Okay, it's a lot of work. Not to mention it's a lot of money. And just when you need it the most, there's a problem, a mechanical problem, then you can't go, then you still have to fly the airlines. I don't know. I maybe I'll get another plane at some point, but I have found that for just me flying back and forth to California or to Texas or to Florida, that flying commercial works just fine. And then I'll add another part to this. I actually love flying on the airlines to Europe because, you know, if you have a nice seat on a long haul flight, you have great food, you get a bed, it's comfortable. You land right where you need to. I mean, I'm just saying it's not the end of the world. But thank you for the emails and the concerns. Sam@whatsrightshow.com, by the way, is my email. See, I read what you guys send me. Now, Robbie we were talking about the AI unemployment debacle that is the wave of unemployment, mass layoffs that are likely and will start happening between now and 2 years from now. It's not 10 years out. It's coming up soon. And but I'll tell you, some jobs are going to be largely immune from AI. And I mean, this is a question of entertainment. If you are in the person-to-person entertainment space, you're going to be fine. If I am correct about my theory that the government basically will have to pay people if they become unemployed, and that people will have time on their hands plus a little bit of money, then the next logical conclusion is that those people will have to do something to fill their time. I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm working. I'm getting kind of down the road a little bit here. Take Vegas, for example. You know, we have in Vegas, and I have friends like this who are, you know, general managers of restaurants, for example, and they make good money. In fact, some of them make a higher wage than the average attorney out there. Did you know this? If you're a GM of a successful restaurant, hell, if you're the GM of an In-N-Out location, okay, you will make more money than the average attorney. And those statistics are out there; they're available, and it is what it is. But I bring it up because for a long time, our society has looked down on people who are in the service industry, right? Those jobs have lacked prestige. While if you are a financial planner or if you're a lawyer somewhere working in a big firm, those positions are presumed or are treated to be more prestigious. And the irony of this is that I look at my friends that are here in Vegas and are doing, are in the service industry and making a good living and paying their mortgages. I actually look, they're not going anywhere because I don't care. The humanoid robots are coming. Okay. I don't, have you seen them? They're frightening. Okay. Do you want to sit in a restaurant and order a meal from I am a robot. Hello. No, you don't. The robot might be in the back washing dishes. Okay. There might be a machine pressing and folding napkins. I don't know. Maybe someday the machine will actually make the food. But at a certain level, a place like Vegas, or even, I'll tell you this, like the cruise ship business, I don't think that sort of mass entertainment, I don't see that. If you work for a cruise line, you're probably going to be okay for a while. People are going to have time to go on cruises, is my point. And it's not, I would assume that the stuff for the super high end is going to be fine too. So if the Four Seasons hotels, high end Amman hotels, they're going to do very well. And then I think the lower tier stuff is going to do well. I worry about the mid tier stuff. That's where I think it could get problematic. But it's also a huge opportunity, honestly. And Robbie touched on this in the break. You guys didn't hear him, but Robbie, you're right. There's a huge opportunity here for Las Vegas, where I live and the show originates from. For those of you who listen out of state, that we can make a really big comeback as a place that has the human touch. And it's going to require, and I have friends at MGM, so I hope you're not listening, it will require the implosion of some of these big mega companies that have taken over gaming and hospitality in Las Vegas. It's going to require a culling of sorts and going back to a model like that of Steve Wynn once upon a time. Now Derek Stevens, who operates Circa at the high end, the Big D casino, and one other property downtown that is owner operator and a huge emphasis on personal touch. That I think is going to be, and I hate this word because it's overused in environmental terms, but that is going to be sustainable. And I mean economically sustainable. So you just have to think, right? Is it on a screen and can it be done? Sort of put out of your mind that it's something that the computer will not be able to figure out what to do and what folder to go in and where to find something. Just put it out of your mind. It is already happening that you can turn your computer over, your desktop over, in my case, my laptop, over to Claude and have them go through your files and organize you in a way that you would have to really legitimately have a full-time assistant and paying that person, him or her, $80,000 to $90,000 a year, having them be super high level, super high functioning, other half of your brain kind of person. It's I'm telling you, that's going away. So if you are back to the cruise ship analogy or the Vegas analogy, if you're working in the back office and you're crunching numbers, I'm sorry, the future is not looking good for you. If you're front of the house and you're interacting with guests of the property, if you're on the cruise ship and you're welcoming guests, if you're the butler serving the sweets on a cruise ship, where you get the point, right? If you're that person, well, then you're golden. You work. And I think the more we become a technological society, the more dystopian it gets, and it's really it's headed that direction. The more we are going to crave the human touch, right? Physical touch, but interaction with humans, real interaction, and that will be something people seek out. This should, parents, if you have kids that are going into college or coming right out of college, what I am saying here should inform every bit of advice that you give your kids. And the old playbook has to get thrown out. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Top of the hour, be back for a second hour in just a moment. Sam Mirejovsky here, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian, making radio great again. Reminder, folks, the radio show, this program, for those of you here in Las Vegas, will be moving to the 6 p.m. hour beginning Monday, 6 p.m. So here's what you need to know. I will always be doing the show in the morning. The podcast will go up early in the morning. So you can download the show and listen to it at your convenience when you want, okay? And all you need to do is go on wherever you get your podcast and find What's Right Show. Click to subscribe, put the notifications on so you know when a new episode launches. And then you can listen to me at your leisure anytime during the day. Now, this is just, I'm telling you, this is the future. I know some of you are tied to terrestrial radio, but I'm just, again, I'm telling you, this is what we need to do. So making that change, we're doing it on Monday, and I hope we can find each other. If there's a problem, if you have a question, and some of you have reached out. For example, we had a listener ask about the iHeart app, and we're working to get the show on the iHeart app. Robbie's hard at work on that. And Robbie, are we going to get there by Monday? We think so. All right. So full speed ahead. Anyway, we're doing it. We're on it. So just bear with us. Sam at whatsrightshow.com. Email me with questions about this, concerns. And I'll get Robbie to tag him in and have him respond on the technical stuff. Okay. You see the Ring camera, the Ring security system ad during the Super Bowl. People are talking about this. And speaking of AI, speaking of dystopian, well, here's the ad, and you tell me if this gives you the warm fuzzies or if this raises some concerns.
This is Milo. Pets are family. But every year, 10 million go missing. And the way we look for them hasn't changed in years. Until now. One post of a dog's photo in the Ring app starts outdoor cameras looking for a match. Search Party from Ring uses AI to help families find lost dogs. Since launch, more than a dog a day has been reunited with their family. Be a hero in your neighborhood with Search Party. Available to everyone for free right now. Join the neighborhood at ring.com.
What possibly could go wrong with this? I mean, I'm just asking that question sort of rhetorically. Because obviously, if you understand tech a little bit, you say, look, you're turning over your camera data to the greater network that is this app, and that can be exploited by the company, it can be exploited by the government. It is, can you imagine this? There's people, I always say this to people. I said, look, if you've got Ring cameras, assume that your data is not secure. Assume it's not secure. Now, I have 2 dogs. I love dogs. Do I like lost dogs? Of course I don't like lost dogs. Do I want to have dogs returned home if they're lost as quickly as possible? Of course. And not just because I'm not a heartless bastard, but just because, I actually love pets. A dog a day, more than a dog a day. So 400, is that, how many dogs is that? Over, let's say about 400 or more, okay? Somewhere in there, 400 dogs a year. So we're going to trade, and if you look at the statistics of how many total dogs there are lost every year, that's a 0.004% recovery rate. Are you willing to do that in exchange for a mass surveillance state? By the way, do you find this is interesting that they said dogs and not kids? 2 years ago, we don't have the 2025 statistics yet, but for 2024, there were 331,000 missing persons of kids under 17 years old. So, I'm always worried. I'm always concerned, folks, when tech companies that have ulterior motives use highly emotional arguments to pull at our heartstrings. Now, if you're asking me, if the next question is, Sam, I don't like any of that, I want to opt out, I have Ring, let me tell you what to do. And I'm going to walk you through it right now. I have to remind myself, and yes, currently I have Ring cameras in my house, and I'm exploring as we speak options to get off the system. But let me tell you what you need to do. You go in and look at this. I knew this would happen, Robbie. I'm literally signed out of my account right now because that's how that works. Okay, nothing would be easy. There are 2 places that you have to opt out. You have to opt out. Okay, I'm back in. I did it. I'm quick with this stuff. So what I think you have to do is there's a little icon at the top left-hand side of your screen, right? I'm going to hide this, but I'm just going to show you this is what you go. Top left hand of the screen. You go on there and you go into Control Center. And let me see here. You scroll down, Community Controls. There is Search Party, I think is where it is. Yes, Search Party. You go in there, search for lost pets, and then Natural Hazards Fire Watch. Disable both of those, because that is a backdoor way that they are able to get all of your data. You think that by just looking for dogs, missing dogs, that they are not getting pictures of you and the wife in the hot tub? I don't want to get graphic. I don't know what you and the wife do. I'm not telling you what me and the wife do. I'm just telling you that I would not want that information being spread out there to people that are looking for a lost pet, quote unquote. What's that look for, Robbie? This is how it is. I mean, you have to presume sinister intent when you're dealing with tech. It's a great Benjamin Franklin quote about this. Those who would give up liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. And I bring this up because the political landscape is filled with people that prey on your desire for safety, your desire for security, and just ask you to give up a little bit of your privacy, a little bit of your rights, a little bit, and gradually this is a creep, right? This is a spread of a surveillance state, of a near dictatorship. And it doesn't even have to be the government. And a lot of times people get so confused about what privacy rights are and what your constitutional rights give you, and they don't realize that the government is bound by the Constitution. Okay, the Constitution is there to protect you from the government. The more that we have private companies that get power over you, it is a back door by which the government can control you. And I don't want to sound like it's not a conspiracy theorist, folks. I'm just telling you. This was my entire argument with Twitter, back when it was Twitter, before Elon Musk took it over and called it X. But in fact, all the social media companies, the government went to the social media companies and said, you are going to ban Sam Mirejovsky, okay? You're going to ban Donald Trump. You're going to ban people from being online. You're going to take away their accounts, or else we're going to regulate the living daylights out of you. We're going to destroy you. And the emails, I'm not making this up. Okay, the emails were there. There are people in the Biden administration, high-ranking members of the administration, who were threatening Meta, Facebook, right? They were threatening Twitter, okay? They were threatening Google, who owns YouTube, right? They were threatening these companies with governmental consequences if they didn't censor your speech. And people said, well, wait a minute, Sam. I mean, I have a First Amendment right to say what I want. And then when the case went up to the Supreme Court, and I think it was decided wrongly, by the way, I strongly and vehemently, in fact, disagree with how the case was decided. But what happened? Supreme Court said, we're going to punt on this because this is a private company and the First Amendment rights don't apply. And I've been talking about this, Robbie, for how long? 10 years, 15 years? I've been talking about how there is a seminal case from 1980, okay, about some kids. So this is what the case is about. Some kids who were set up a little Greenpeace booth, got booted from a shopping center called Pruneyard, okay? This Pruneyard case is a very important case. California got booted. They said, this is private property. We can regulate the speech that is here on this property. And it went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court all the way back in 1980, I think the case was filed in 79, but I think it was decided in 80, and said, you know what? Wait. Yes, the shopping center is private property, but these shopping centers are actually the new public square. People don't hang out on the square. They don't hang out on Main Street because they would get shot. People are hanging out in these shopping centers. It is the new place that people go. And if you operate private property that you invite the public onto as ordinary course and scope of business, then there are some implied obligations to respect free speech. And this is why you will go to shopping centers and you'll see a little, Jehovah's Witnesses or whoever set up and a security guard standing there and saying, okay, well, this is a free speech designated area. I don't know if a shopping center is a private piece of property that the public has been invited to shop. How is Facebook not the same thing? In fact, a better example of it, because people have specifically been invited to share their opinions. So with that said, this is what my point is, that the government can find ways to spy on you, to regulate you, to control you via private companies. And technology is only going to make that easier for the government to do. It worries me, and it ought to worry you as well. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Be right back.
The Sam and Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Well, that's good. Ring just emailed me to confirm that it was me signing in. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Let me tell you the problem that I have today, Robbie. If you're wondering why I am struggling with my technology, I got a new iPhone. I did it. I got a new iPhone, and mother of it just is a nightmare whenever I have to transfer data. It's a nightmare. Because you know what the thing is, I get the phone, right? I get the phone and I have so many text messages and they all have to load. And I've got apps and I've got my photos and my whole life is on my phone. And so I start the process and by the way, and I have an iPhone, so there's a new way where you don't go from an iCloud backup, but you can hold the old phone together with the new phone and let them via Bluetooth transfer the information. And I thought that would be faster, so I kicked that process off. And by the way, neither phone will work in that time, so you have no phone. And so I started the process. I should have done it once I got home, but I wanted to get things done. So I started the process at the office. And suddenly I had two phones that were bricked, and then it was spooling, it was waiting to tell me how long it would be, and then it pops up. 12 hours remaining. And then it dropped down. The good news is it went drop down to 11, to 10, to 8, to 9. It went all the way down to 4, and then it just got stuck there. And then it went up to 5, and it went up to 6, and when it went up to 7, I canceled the whole thing, and I rebooted, restarted from scratch with the new phone, and I did the iCloud backup, and that was done within 45 minutes. So, if you're going through that, just do the iCloud backup. It'll take a fraction of the time, just from what I experienced. Okay, friends, welcome back. The What's Right show brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. If you get hurt, don't go at it alone. Don't deal with the insurance company directly. It's not a good idea. You're going to end up thousands of dollars in the hole. It's going to hurt. And it's going to waste your precious time. Your time is more valuable than whatever upside you think you're going to get by handling things on your own. And trust me, the upside ends up becoming a negative. SamandAshLaw.com. Check it out. It's my firm. You'll see my face there. By the way, we just went through results, and it matters. Cases that start at zero, at $1,000. We obtained $100,000 on one recent case, $2.4 million on another. That case started as a zero offer case. And by the way, on that particular case, we represented a lawyer, but he was smart enough to know that he shouldn't represent himself, that he needed a reputable firm like Sam and Ash to get things done for him and his family. 800-304-2000. 800-304-2000. SamandAshLaw.com. No money up front, no money out of your pocket. Fees come out at the end, and you're still ahead. That's the Sam and Ash guarantee. 800-304-2000, because you deserve what's right. Friends, greetings. Welcome to the program. Okay. I'll get to the shooting in Canada. It's horrific. 9 people, I think, are dead. 6 people were found dead at the school. 1 died en route to the hospital. 2 at a residence. At least 25 to 27 others were injured. This happened at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School, and a private residence connected to the school. Small town, rural town, 2,400 people in northeast British Columbia. There is a lot of speculation in the media. Some Canadian news reports, for example, Juno News, Western Standard, social media discussions, that the suspect as an 18-year-old transgender. So Newsweek, is that right, Robbie? Newsweek's now reporting it as its trans shooter. All right, so it's not confirmed by the police. By the way, here is the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Superintendent, North District Commander Ken Floyd. You know, bear in mind, again, this potentially is a transgender shooter. The description of the shooter here kind of bemused me. Have a listen.
So we have 9 total people deceased. We found 8 in Tumbler Ridge in 2 locations, and then another was deceased during ambulatory transport to the clinic.
Okay, and none of those people are the gun person?
That includes the deceased gun person.
Okay.
The gun person. They don't even say shooter, the gun person. Not the gun boy, man, not the gun girl, the gun woman, the gun person. I know this is you know, like you have to speak Canadian to understand these people. The political correctness is astonishing. Also notice, of course, the anti-gun agenda. No doubt this will drive further efforts in Canada to stop, to prevent people from lawful gun ownership. They've already done a lot. Canada doesn't have a Second Amendment. You know what the problem here? Have you looked at the statistics? And I get to this here when we come back. The statistics on how many of these shootings are trans individuals. Why does the left always want to talk about the guns? It's interesting. All right, hang tight. Sam Mirejovsky here. We got to talk about the SAVE Act too. Updates on that. Voter ID. We must get it across the finish line. Well, everything Mike Johnson said this morning on Fox Business to Maria Bartiromo is true. I would have said it a little bit more forcefully if I were him. I understand, of course, some diplomacy must be maintained with Senate Republicans who continue to do nothing on getting voter ID passed. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Here is Mike Johnson this morning on Fox Business.
We're going to do everything we can to make that happen and get it to the president's desk. As you know, it's a top priority of his and of ours. House Republicans have been working hard for years now to ensure the integrity of American elections because it is essential to maintain a constitutional republic. We passed the SAVE Act in the last Congress and in this Congress, and the SAVE Act just simply says you have to have proof of citizenship if you're going to register to vote in federal elections, in American elections. What a concept. Well, now we're going to pass the Save America Act. So it has that same provision of citizenship proof. Now you also have to have a valid photo ID to vote. What a concept. As you said, in some polls, it's a 90-10 issue. Even 70% of Democrats agree that that is reasonable and necessary. But the Democrats in the Senate are trying to hold it up. And I'm hopeful that Leader Thune and our Senate Republicans can get it done and get it to the president's desk when we send it over.
You know, what the hell are they doing? And I shared with you yesterday, Lisa Murkowski, Republican senator from Alaska, a Republican in name only, hence Rhino, already voiced her opposition to this. This is catastrophic, and it's the problem, by the way, is compounded by the fact that the House majority is teetering on the brink because a Florida congressman just announced he may be retiring early. Neil Dunn is planning perhaps to announce an early retirement next week, according to some sources. This would mean that basically on a party line vote, they could afford to lose one Republican. I mean, it's impossible. And this whole thing could, voter ID and cleaning up elections so Republicans could have a 20-vote majority is going to go away. It's done. This is so maddening. It's unbelievable. So this just keeps getting one problem to the next with these idiots. And I agree. I think, by the way, I think if this does not get done, I think if the SAVE Act does not get undone, Republicans can kiss it goodbye in Congress. As a Republican voter myself, I mean, how do you go and how do you vote for? If I had a Republican congressman in my district where I lived, if I had a Republican senator in my state, which I don't, I got 2 Democrats representing me here in Nevada, you know, how could I vote for that person again? What would motivate me to go out and vote for them in the midterms? The answer is not a whole lot. That's the scoop. Now, I mentioned before the break, I mentioned the shooting in Canada, tragic. People, I mean, obviously, multiple people are dead. A school shooting now being reported by more news sources that it was a trans shooter. There's some interesting statistics on this, and of course, the first thing that the left is doing is saying we need more gun control. Look at who is behind mass shootings. Mass shootings, 4+ deaths per million people by group. That's what it is. Okay. Trans, non-binary, biological male. Number 1 top shooter, 0.769. Trans, non-binary, bio-female. Next group, 0.667. And then there's a big drop-off. The next group, Asian men, then black men, then white men, then Asian women, and then Hispanic men. You know, it's, what is this, 0.176 white men as compared to 0.769 on trans, non-binary, biological male. I mean, but bringing this up because I think if you ask a normie, a non, news obsessed person, maybe a moderate or an independent, not a diehard Democrat, not a diehard Republican, and you say, who are the top shooters out there, mass shooters, statistically? They'll tell you young white men. I'm convinced of it. I think that would be the answer. And that's the skew that comes from the media. See how little we actually know until we're informed? And by the way, do I think, and this is an important thing to say, do I think that a trans person is inherently violent? And the answer is no. I think a trans person is inherently mentally ill. And this is the terrible thing to say because it's so politically incorrect, but there's something wrong with you, and it's okay, right? If you're an adult and you think you're a man and you think you're a woman, or you're a woman and you think you're a man, and you're an adult and you want to pretend and live in that universe, it's fine. You do you. I'm a freedom guy. You do you. Don't make me participate in your fantasy, okay, in your delusions. But by all means, you're free to do whatever you want with yourself. Now, I think society has a duty to protect kids from themselves and from their parents, even. That we have society does not allow a parent to mutilate their child, or for a child to make that decision on their own, right? So that's a hill I'm going to die on. But back to this being the explanation here, of course, is that a lot of these trans kids aren't actually trans. They're just troubled, right? What is the incidence? If I take away one T word and replace it with another, if I take away the trans word and I just say troubled, would anybody be surprised that troubled men and women, that troubled boys and girls are overwhelmingly at the top of the mass shooters, statistical pile, right? That they're at the high end of the graph? Orders of magnitude above Asian women, for example, or even white men? Right? I mean, my point is, nobody would ever think about it twice. And it's a reframe that's very important. And this is why I'm so just fought this trans topic so hard with kids because these kids need help. They don't need to be put on puberty blockers. They don't need to be mutilated for life. They don't need to be inalterably changed. Their whatever frustrations and whatever trouble that is going on in their lives, they need help. They need support. And I get it, and I had compared to most people, I had a great childhood. It doesn't mean that going through puberty in junior high, the two go hand to hand, right? I went to public school, junior high, 7th and 8th grade where I lived, the worst 2 years of my life. It's not even close. I've been through a lot of hell in my life. The 2 years, particularly 7th grade, gosh, awful. And why? Well, I think a lot of adults forget this, but you're going through it, and I see it with my own kids, and you've got hormones raging through your body, and kids are mean. It's hard to fit in. We're finding people really the social pecking order, all this stuff. Acne on top of it. Everything's going on. And of course, people who don't get love and support at home are going to go off the rails, because people go off the rails even when they do get that, come from a 2-parent household and where things by and large are good. And I have a lot of compassion. So one thing that really irritates me in this trans kid argument and gender affirming care argument is, Sam, where's your compassion? And I'm bothered by that because I have a tremendous amount of compassion. I actually think it's very cruel to take a troubled child and mutilate them. And that ought not be controversial at all. And what I do think is compassion is providing, care and support and counseling and actually affirming biology for young people and not giving them a means, not encouraging them to do this terrible stuff just to get attention. Because the affirming and gender affirming care that's the dangerous part. Every child of that age, 13, 14, 12, now as young as 10, they need, crave affirmation. They crave affirmation. And these terrible, hideous adults call it gender affirming care. They affirm you. You're brave. You're strong. You're you. Where's that affirming language for just, a boy who just is a boy and likes girls and isn't quote unquote special to the left? Actually, they spit in the face of those young boys, right? They spit in the faces of those young men. They tell them that men are the problem. They tell them America was built on white supremacy. Sometimes I really don't hate the left enough. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Be right back. Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here. The What's Right show is on. Reminder, folks, starting on Monday, we're going to have a new time. For those of you that listen on the radio here in Las Vegas, we're moving to the 6 p.m. hour, 6 p.m. And the show will be recorded earlier in the day and will be available on podcast. So it'll be just first thing in the morning. You'll get the full show, everything you'd want to hear on demand. So my suggestion is get on the podcast. What's Right Show. Find it wherever you get your podcasts. Click to subscribe, turn on your notifications, and you'll be the first to know. All right. Producer Robbie and I talking about this yet another trans shooting occurring in Canada, just an absolute tragedy. going through the statistics, right, that all of these trans male, trans female people are actually significantly leading the list of individuals responsible for mass shootings. And yeah, and it's horrific, right? It's horrific. And there's a reason for this, and I think Robbie, you're absolutely right. You know, it's very cruel to tell kids that something as fundamental as their biological sex is up for debate. It completely unmoors a kid. And you know, I mean, statistics are valuable and statistics are helpful. But they are, you know, they're not always dispositive. But when you look at these numbers and you look at how many of these kids are shooting up schools, and you start to think about these kids not as trans kids, but as troubled kids who have been told that their troubled state is actually okay, and where their confusion and their misery in some cases, right? These kids are unhappy profoundly in their lives, are validated by the adults in the room who ought to know better. But instead, these kids get told, you're okay, of course. Whatever you believe. And by the way, they get rewarded for it, which is another component of this. They get rewarded. The kid begins to think, is anything true? Is there any truth out there? If it's not true that I'm actually a boy, even though I was born as a boy, if that's not true, is anything true out there? And I'm just telling you then, and I think this is designed, right? This whole trans ideology for kids was designed to produce nihilism, which the left needs. Nihilists, right? They need people who just believe nothing has any value. Because if you walk around and you think nothing has any value, then you're very persuaded by leftist ideology. But is it any surprise that nihilism would produce school shooters? It's, of course this is related. Of course this is a natural consequence of this ideology. It's going to require a little bit of time to step back from it. Obviously, it's headed in the right direction, and a lot of victories were won in the last year, in 2025, in the fight against the pediatric, child transgender mutilations that were happening. But it's just it breaks my heart. And again, if the update on this shooting, it's just a real tragedy. There were 8 people, looks like 9 people that are dead at least. It's described as the Canada's deadliest school shooting since the 1989 École Polytechnique massacre in Montreal. So, absolutely wretched stuff. Well, I like that. I'll get to the immigration thing too, Robbie. I know we got just a few minutes left in the show. There is a great question that now is being even asked by leftists. The leftists that have some amount of curiosity, why is it that Clinton, Bush, Obama even, all believed in a closed border? Trump obviously believed in a closed border. Why did everybody believe in a closed border? And then under Joe Biden, the doors were swung wide open. Why is that? And why are the same people that covered for Biden and the Biden administration opening the border and letting our country be invaded, where it was for the first time, and there was a great interview that was given by Tom Homan about this, where Homan goes, look, I've worked for 6 presidents. I've worked in 6 administrations, and I've never seen anything like what I saw under Joe Biden. I mean, we just stopped enforcing anything at the southern border. And it was deliberate. And you ask yourself why. And why is it that the same people that pushed that ideology now don't want voter ID? See, it doesn't, again, you do not have to run this through the highest levels of artificial intelligence to get an answer. The answer is simple. It was always a play for raw political power. Congressional appointment, electoral votes, federal dollars. You've got the public school racket, Medicaid reimbursements, illegal wages, right? And it, like, all of this stuff. And also, of course, I'll say, you look at Medicaid reimbursements, you look at all of the money that went into these directly to state governments, directly to county and city governments in blue cities, and to the NGOs to help with the humanitarian assistance for all these immigrants. And everybody related to the government officials that ran these operations were vastly enriched. Members of Congress quickly became multimillionaires. And so did a whole bunch of other political apparatchiks, most of whom you've never heard of. So that's what this was all about. And I'll tell you, if we're cruising for a bruising with AI in the next 2 years, now is the time to clean up house and make sure that our country has clean elections. For one, make sure that our country has manufacturing. For another. And folks, I would start listening to Trump a little bit more on this. Turns out he's right a lot of the time. All right, Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Get the podcast, subscribe, What's Right Show. Look it up, get there, log in, get the show so you do not miss a beat. See you tomorrow.